Alrighty. So licensing and merchandising, and what that looks like in sports marketing. If you would like a paper note guide, I have these back here. You can come grab one. So the first thing, before we can actually get into licensing and merchandising, we have to know a little bit of background information. So when we go through this piece, we have to think about what intellectual property means. And intellectual property is basically going to be protection over the rights of those who create things. So this could be products, it could be services, or it could be ideas. So intellectual property laws are going to be things that protect the inventor, the author, or the creator. And we'll talk about a couple specific intellectual property laws and how they impact sports marketing and our merchandising. Intellectual property moving forward. If we talk about this anymore or like during our test review, I'll probably refer to it as IP or IP laws. So intellectual property and IP, basically the same thing. So 3 IP laws that affect sports and entertainment marketing. The first is going to be trademarks. And so trademarks are going to be protection for signs or symbols. And we are going to see that whenever we think about logos. Logos are definitely under trademarks. Trademarks last for about 10 years. So if I want to keep the same logo, then every 10 years I need to basically reapply for a trademark for it. Depending on the company size, we've been talking about budgeting lately for how much they can pay for sponsorships, how much they can pay for endorsements. A lot of companies, if I don't want somebody, even if my trademark has ended, it's been 10 years, I no longer want to use this logo, I want to use an updated one. A lot of companies are still going to continuously have the trademark for their past logos because they don't want other people to use them. I don't want to use it anymore, but I still don't want other people to use it. We also have patents. And so these are going to be protection for the actual invention. It's a little bit longer, 20 years. So we can see this when we actually develop the product. We talk about merchandising a little bit with licensing. So I might want to have a patent for the design of the shoe that I make, or the design of the jacket, whatever it be, the design of my new sports product. That's an invention. I'm changing the way that this item works. So I'm going to have a patent for it. And then lastly, we have copyrights. So things that are the original authorship. So a brand statement, a slogan, a jingle that maybe go along with my brand, as well as like photos. If I had a photo shoot with my athletes or with some celebrities wearing my brand, people can't just use those whenever they feel like it. And the same with broadcasting. If I'm recording the game that my team is playing, people can't just steal that and watch it on their own. That's why we have to pay for it, because they're paying for a copyright. And copyrights last a lot longer. Those are going to be 70 years. For copyrights, depending on the company, depending on the industry, sometimes they will pay after 70 years goes on. They may pay to get the copyright continued. They may not. There are some like movies and songs and stuff like that that are no longer copyrighted because the artists, they're like, oh, I don't need to keep doing that. 70 years is long enough. So those are our three main IP laws. And now that we know some of that basic information, we can actually get into what licensing is. Or just kidding, we can look at some examples of how IP laws impact the sporting industry. So the patents, we know, are the technology for this specific item. They may be the technology that's used to develop the shoe. The trademarks, going to be things like the logo, if they put this, the Nike swoosh that's on that shoe. And then the copyrights, any artwork that comes along that's publicizing it. So this picture is copyrighted because this is an advertisement that Nike made. Adidas is a company who has been pretty prominent. They definitely take their IP laws seriously. They have lawsuits going on with Skechers because they think that their shoe design is too similar. Adidas is on the top, Skechers is on the bottom of those white shoe up top. They think it's too similar. They're suing them for kind of using their design for the shoe, which would be the patent, as well as mimicking their trademarked logo. Nike is the 3 lines, Skechers is using 4, going in a different direction, but they think that's close enough. They also have had lawsuits with Puma because of this cleat at the bottom. That's the Puma cleat. They have the 4 lines going down. They think that's too similar to their 3-line trademarked logo. So now that we have those examples, what actually is licensing? Licensing is just going to be an agreement that allows others to use my trademarked items for a fee. So I have my trademarked items, I have my logo, I have my slogan, and I'm going to kind of sell that or rent it to a company so that they can use it on their items. The only way that people can use it on their products is if they pay this trademarked fee, or if they pay the fee that goes along with licensing. If they do not, then their products are illegal. If they do, then their products are legal to be sold. And just as a recap, the trademarked items, they could be a symbol. It could be even the wording. They could put the brand name. They could put the slogan. If Nike is going to license out some of their branding elements, I could make a t-shirt that has the Nike swoosh. I could say, just do it. I could put their brand name on my product. So those are just some examples of trademarked items. We can see it here in our own school with our Liberty Blue Jays logo. And then we can see it both in different sports, in just sports products, and in organizations. A lot of times, not all of them do, but a lot of times we'll see this little TM at the bottom of their logo, and that's one way to know that that is a trademarked item. So now looking at some important terms. We have a licensor, and a licensor is going to be the organization or the person who owns that trademarked item. So I just have I have a lot of logos that are trademarked. This trademarked item, it could be, they're going to be the organization that owns that trademark. So the NFL owns this logo. The PGA owns this logo. And then we have the licensee. And this is going to be the person that pays to use those logos, and because they want to put it on their products and sell it. These are some examples of companies who do that, of companies who act as that licensee. And we'll see some examples of how they do that as well. But the licensor is the person who owns the trademarked item. The licensee is the one who wants to buy it and sell it. They pay the fee to use that trademarked item on their own products. Licensing is oftentimes used to make merchandise. Merchandise is the main reason that people pay those licensing fees, because they want to add those logos to their own products and then sell them for a profit. A big piece of this is going to be clothing. So about 40% of licensed sports merchandise comes from clothing. So hats, socks, t-shirts, jackets, pants, something that you can wear. And that means that the other 40% comes from any other possible item. So 40% is a huge percentage. At the top of that list for clothing, t-shirts are going to be probably the number one. T-shirts and jackets, followed by hats, are the top three that people want to buy or that people want to produce when they pay those merchandising fees. So I have some examples. They will use any type of product, really, that they can incorporate a sports team with. Staplers, phone cases, Mickey Mouse hats. It is endless as to what you can buy and what you can sell to sports fans, because sports fans are so often just very, very passionate about their team, and they will buy a ton of products. That's why licensing is so impactful in sports marketing. Some other examples. We had EA on the example of a licensor. This is how they do that. So they're using specific players. They're using the logos and designs that these teams use for their uniforms, as well as the NFL logo. So they're not only just paying the NFL for their licensing fee, they're also paying the Chiefs. They might also be paying Patrick Mahomes for this specific game. And the same goes for the others, as well as Monopoly. They have an NFL game. So they're paying a licensing fee to use the NFL logo. They're paying a licensing fee to use all of those names of the different NFL teams that are in this game. And then the benefits to being a licensor, meaning that I am selling my trademarked item to somebody else, I'm going to be getting some money. So I'm guaranteed that licensing fee. They're paying me just to have the opportunity to use my item, to use my trademarked item, like my logo or my name. In addition to that, we have what is called royalties. And royalties mean that every time that game is sold, I'm going to get a percentage of it. So if Monopoly makes this NFL game board, they're going to pay me a certain dollar amount to use my NFL logo. And then every single NFL game board that gets sold, I'm going to get a certain dollar amount. Maybe I get $10 for every Monopoly board that is sold. Being a licensor is a really, really low risk way to make money because I'm guaranteed that amount. It basically gives me free advertising, because anytime somebody walks by, they see that Monopoly board, they're going to see my logo, It helps build my brand, and we remember that we have 3 brand loyalty phases, so it helps me rise into those other phases. And I'm still able to control how my logo is being used. We can see some dollar amounts that are connected with this, or some percentages. In general, the sporting industry made $25 billion through licensing fees in 2016. And not even thinking about a major league industry, but the minor league baseball industry earned 63, I didn't mean to put a percentage sign, but 68.3 million in merchandise that had been licensed. So there are huge dollar amounts. There's a lot of potential to earn a lot of money through licensing in sports and entertainment. There is a risk to licensing. There is always the risk of counterfeit. Counterfeit meaning that an exact replica is going to be made. So maybe I make a replica of the NFL logo and I put it on my product. I'm not paying that licensing fee. I'm making a counterfeit product. Just making a counterfeit product. And that's a risk, because then that means that whatever brand is making counterfeit products is able to sell their items to customers who think that we are working together when we are not. It gives customers the false idea that I support this brand or that I support this company, when really I do not support them. Along with licensing, this is a way for companies to sell merchandise that has my logo on it. I have a couple different options that I could do, or that I could go through whenever I decide to go through licensing. So maybe I sell my trademark, or I license out my trademark, rent out my trademark to these companies because they're going to make some t-shirts. But maybe I decide that I also want to make some t-shirts. So merchandising goes hand in hand with licensing, because I have the opportunity to make my own products rather than outsourcing them, rather than renting those trademarked items to my or to other businesses. I could just design them myself. And that's what we're going to practice with a little bit when we come to the licensing portion of our graphic organizer. So if we don't want to license our trademarked items out, we can always create our own merchandise. Or we can do both. We can license our trademarked items out to other people. Maybe they want to make specific items. Maybe they want to make jackets and t-shirts and hats, but I want to focus on cups and coolers and backpacks. I don't have to do all of it. I could pick specific items that I'm going to create, merchandise that I will create, and I can license out the rest of it. So before we move on to this graphic organizer, we are going to have a quick exit slip on Canvas. I just want to see, you're just going to recap some of that knowledge very quickly. Let me open it up for you. So on Canvas, just this licensing exit slip, it is 2 questions, really simple questions. I ask you to I think I just ask you to define 2 terms. And then we will move on to finishing this last piece of our graphic organizer.